Um, yeah, I have this really interesting topic, which is which will be also not entertaining at all, and I'm using it because I have actually two motivations for that. I made a lot of interviews in last few days. If you don't know, we released the game yesterday. And the first question always is why your game is realistic. And the second motivation was that when I was thinking about this topic, I came to the conclusion that there is many Czech games that are realistic, that we are some kind of realistic game superpower. I was thinking about it, why it actually happens if we are, you know, not very, we don't have good fantasy or something like that. So yeah, I will just through few slides talk about this and encourage you, if you are game developers, I hope you are. Are you game developers? Who is game developer here? And who is going to be game developer one day? The rest? Oh, great. So I will just tell you that you should not make a game for everyone. So if you have just read it, you can leave. There will be nothing more. My name is Viktor Bocan. I work in Warhorse. Excuse me? 1, 2, 3? Okay. I work in Warhorse Studios as a design lead. I'm for more than 20 years in games industry. And I made 2 games during this time. It means I must be very good. I was a former design lead in Bohemia Interactive, where we work on Operation Flashpoint. I work on the Arma series a little, in 2K on Mafia 2 and a little of Mafia 3. So all of these are worlds or games put into the real worlds without fantasy and magic. It's quite sad. What we released just now was this one. Kingdom Come Deliverance is the realistic, of course, open world medieval RPG. And as I've said, the first motivation for this particular topic was that I made many interviews. Yeah, when I put this picture on the slide, I realized I grew older for 10 years during the 5-year development and 20 kilos. And the first typical question was, why the hell the game is realistic? Short answer was, why not? And when the journalist was laughing about this answer, then I was thinking, and the long answer is on these slides. The other answer is this one. And this is the global ladder on the Steam. It's actually from yesterday, because last time I checked we were second already after the PUBG. And I check it every 2 minutes, so it's fresh information. So definitely what we were told like 2 years ago or 5 years ago when we started, it was like, who will ever play a realistic game? No one will like it. Make fireballs, make dragons. And here you can see it. Well, I just want to be it for a while longer. It's nice. That's why I'm here. Okay. The Kingdom Come and Operation Flashpoint is not the only game. If you think about it, the Mafia is actually a game put in realistic world setting. Euro Truck Simulator is one of the most successful actually Czech games on the market. And it's, again, you get to the truck cabin, you drive your truck, and you end your driving, and you finish the game. And people love it. All of these games actually sold millions, so there must be some market for realistic games. But when we make Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, people will ask us again why we create realistic game. So if you are a journalist, please don't ask. And that's about it. It's this niche market. Does it mean that you create the game just for the part of the market? And I made some research and find out that there are 2 billion of gamers, actually. This is the data from the ESA, Entertainment Software Association. Only in the United States, almost 70% of the households own a device that is dedicated to games. And from all of the households, almost everyone has a computer. Half of the households have a gaming console, which you cannot use for anything else than for gaming. And Americans only in the last year, it's from the 2017, spent 25 billions on games. And they were actually the second that China spent more. So we have Kingdom Come localized in China, or Chinese. Which is interesting. Yeah, it's always good to say some funny stories from behind. We have Chinese translation for Kingdom Come, and none of us speak Chinese. So we have no idea what it's actually there in the translation. And we think that it's very adventurous and interesting, so we haven't found someone who speaks Chinese to translate it back for us. We just believe the guy who... We actually met him on E3 or somewhere, and he said, "Hey, I love your games, I will translate it to Chinese." And we said, "Oh, it's great, just do it." And we are sending him our games and all texts, and he's translating it, and it looks cool. It looks like a Chinese, at least. That's what we can find. And so I believe it will be a very interesting game for Chinese players. It's actually selling quite well there. So go back again to this. If there are 2 billion of gamers, you don't want to create the game for all of them, because simply you can't. And so what can you do? And that's it. You make a game just for some very small part of this huge market. But as this all market is very huge, then you create very small and uninteresting game, like a realistic RPG from the central Bohemia, from the countryside of central Bohemia. There is no city. There are only fields and people working on fields. And you still, if you get just part of this huge market, you can be very successful and make a lot of money and celebrate a lot. Sorry. The original Operation Flashpoint sold more than 1 million copies for full price in 2001 on PC only. And the sales were much higher later. And in his lifetime, it sold like 3 million together with its expansions. And it started quite, again, quite successful series of Arma. And from the beginning, it was game created for the military fans. It was like, there must be many military fans amongst gamers, because, well, every other game is about shooting people. So we created the game specifically for those who like military, who like the real army, the real soldiers. And we were not actually thinking how many military fans are there. We just create the game for them, and we were very surprised that how many there was. And again, when we were close to the release date, we get interviews and questions like, why the hell it is realistic? Why they will kill you if you put player to the middle of the world, he will probably die. Yeah, and they died a lot, and they love it. Love it. If you look at it really from the wider point, and look what actually is realistic on the Operation Flashpoint or the Arma series, you find out that it's not actually that much, because they are real cars, real tanks, real weapons. That's true, but Call of Duty or Battlefield, they have also real cars, real tanks, and real weapons. You can die, yeah, that's true, but you can die in almost every game except Call of Duty. And actually, what realistic is, it's maybe slightly about difficulty, but not that much. It's more about the settings, about the feeling, about that's the realistic part. The most realistic part of Flashpoint or Arma or even Kingdom Come is that actually the game is put to the real world. And this means that the story you are living there is believable. And you are not some super soldier with superpowers who will not kill all whole enemy armies or anything like that. And that's actually what was the selling point of all these games, that they can take you somewhere. It's close enough to real world, so you know the rules or understand them very quickly, because you know there are people, they have flags, usually down head, usually up there, you shoot them to the head and they die. Which is great, because if you fight giant bugs, you don't know where to shoot them. So the realistic part of the Flashpoint is not that it's some kind of simulation and you need to, I don't know, if you are hurt, you need to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks and then you go home because you cannot fight any longer. The realistic part is that the war is all around you and you are just a small piece in the middle of it. And it's quite easy actually to create this immersion. And that's everything what is realistic. And yeah, you can die, but on the lower difficulty, it's also not that easy. So that was what actually was so-called realistic. That you can die, and suddenly players play differently, because they know they will die, they know they don't have a quick save function, so they don't want to repeat the longer part of the game, so they play more cautiously. They take care of the surrounding, and the gameplay is suddenly different and much longer, which is good. You are not the leading general of big army, and you cannot kill enemy army by your one hand. You are just part of it, and it's also interesting because it's similar to a real world. You are not the leader of a big company. Usually, you're just one peasant somewhere down there. And of course, if you win, it's good because you made it. You are happy. You can. Well, there was no Facebook at the time, but you can put screenshot somewhere and says, yeah, hey, I defeated this game. It's great. If you look at the Kingdom Come, it's still the same. If you look at the reviews, apart from glitches and bugs, and there's many of them, they also say, hey, it's realistic games. I don't want to live in the Middle Ages. I'm too happy that my ancestors get me from these terrible black times to our modern reality, and I'm much happier in 21st century than I would be in the Middle Ages. Why should I be there? It's the living simulator of some peasant living on the fields of the medieval, and it's actually not the truth. We are putting all our marketing efforts to saying that it's realistic games, but well, look at it, it's not. You must eat and sleep in our game, but you die by hunger if you don't eat like 3 days or something like that. So only thing you do that while you are playing, you just I don't know, get into some house and eat something, some porridge that is actually on the fire, and you are fine. You need to sleep from time to time, but yeah, it's actually, you are actually saving the game by sleeping. So you just save the game from time to time, and you are rested. You can die in combat, but it's still much easier than other games. And you have no spells, but well, first you have potions. You can brew some elixirs in alchemy that are almost like spells, and also there is much more games without spells. So what is realistic on it? So at the end, it's the same point again. It's not realistic game in the terms of, oh, it will be terrible, I will definitely die for some illness 5 minutes into the game. It's just typical RPG game, and we are just putting you into the real world and tell you, hey, you have never seen this, because fantasy worlds are all the same. The science fiction worlds are cool, but all the same, and this is something different. We allow you to use this time machine and look how it looked in the Middle Ages. And that's it. We actually, gameplay-wise, it's not realistic at all. You still can kill a lot of people. You will still heal from grievous wound by sleeping for a while, or drinking a potion, or eating an apple. We have apples in the game. This is realistic. On the other hand, the one part is that why we still talk about realistic games, we first want to introduce you to this special world, that the game is unique, and on the other hand, there is a lot of people that wants real medieval game, that wants to get to the Middle Ages because they are enthusiasts, which is very interesting. Thinking about who actually plays those games. I have some friends in the team of Euro Truck Simulator, and we talk about it much. They've sold millions, and they tell us that really many professional drivers play their game, and it's really like the drivers, well, they drive the truck, so they are 3 days on a trip. They deliver some goods, go home, kiss their wife, go to the computer, and start a computer game about driving a truck. And if you look at it, there are 2 billion players all over the world. You can count on the street how many truck drivers are there. So definitely a lot of truck drivers are players, and you create game for them, and this is almost the only game for them. So everyone plays it. It's great, and that was what I was talking about. You find some very special part of the market and just use it. And Arma, or Operation Flashpoint, also sold millions. Some of it for DayZ modification, but well, it's not the problem. And again, when we were creating the Flashpoint, we have actually soldiers testing our game pre-release. And it wasn't like that we were thinking like, hey, let's give it to soldiers to find out if it's really militaristic game. It was that they were emailing us like, hey, I have heard you are creating the games about soldiers. Could I play it? I am a soldier, and my father is a soldier, and my brother is a soldier, and my sister is a soldier, and we will all play it in multiplayer and tell you our feelings. So, and when we released the game, we had really huge amount of letters from soldiers, and it was in the testing version of the game, which was not released at the end, this part of the game, there was a mission with the night watch, and we created the mission when you are assigned to the guard some fortress, small fortress, and nothing happened, because it's what actually happens on the watch. You are going there, you are standing there because some saboteurs may come and someone can attack the fortress, but usually no one comes. So we had it there, and we had not really great response from other testers, or other players because they were kind of surprised that nothing happened. And we received the nicest letter in video games history from some soldier, and he was extremely happy, and he said, "This is the best gaming experience I have ever had. I was very thrilled, what welcome. Then I almost fell asleep, but I still knew that it is my duty to guard this fortress. And at the morning, the guarding duty, and yeah, I did a great job. No one attacked us." It's quite a shame we removed it. A lot of people hate it. So, and that's it. What makes these games special? And I included Mafia into this list because part of the people who were working on Kingdom Come Deliverance worked on Mafia before, and that it's unique. And if you put it to the real world, it's suddenly something that it's not usual, and it's special. It doesn't try to satisfy everybody, so we will definitely not sold 2 billion of copies. But what happens is that the community supports you because you are unique. And they are also unique because they are playing this game. They stick together much better than on the other games. They love your games. They also hate your games. Yeah, that's all right. Many people write us that we made the most terrible game in the world. It's all right if you do something unique, then people will hate you. But there is much more people, well, much more vocal people who will love you because there is no other similar experience. This, of course, doesn't mean that every unique game is automatically success, but the main message of this, that gaming community is so large that if you create almost anything, there is always someone, and possibly a few millions of people, who will love you for that. I will just very quickly, because we are short of time, show you just real example that we have in Kingdom Come. We have a very controversial save game system because we don't want the player to save anytime, so we remove the quick save. And we limited the saving the game that you either need a special item, which is alcoholic brew, that you can drink and it will save your game. It's like, yeah, in the description there is something that this will bring good memories. So you save your game by drinking this alcohol, or which has consequences, because if you drink a lot of alcohol too often, you will become an alcoholic and you need to drink much more, and it's not very good for your health. You can actually stop drinking, but it's even worse, and you need to stay out of any alcohol for a few days to cure that. So yeah, that's realistic part. And the other possibility is that you just go sleep and it will save automatically, and there is also autosave in the main quest. And the effect is a little bit of rage. If you see something negative in reviews, it's usually, oh, they are so idiots. How they could do that? And the argumentation is always like, hey, I am the master of my own time. I want to save when I want. No, you will save when we want. And the community part of this is, if you look at it, this is the some of the negative reviews. We have like 76% of positive reviews on Steam so far, and of those negatives, many of them say, hey, I love your games, it's great, but for the hell, fix this save. And someone from the community, because they love the game, come and tell him, fuck you. Yeah, and that's interesting, because if you create a unique game, you have a faithful community, and they will defend you against the others, which is great. And on the other hand, they created already the mode to remove this restriction, which is also cool. But that means that they don't like it that much. Just for the end, I want to say, if you hear to all this, was it a clever business plan at the beginning? We looked at the market and say, hey, this is a hole, there is no realistic open world RPG, let's make it. No, we just made the game we would like to play and we couldn't find it, which is the important part of the marketing research. So I don't say literally ignore the focus groups, test and marketing research, but yeah, well, actually I say it. That's it. Do not try to make a perfect game for everyone. Do not try to find the magical recipe that this is the game that everyone will love. Just make a game you want to play, especially if you cannot find this game on the market. If you say, okay, now I want the, I don't know, racing games when I am small people riding giant snails, and you cannot find it on the market, just do it. There's definitely many people who will love it, just for the obscurity of that idea. So if there are millions of games or thousands of games with millions of players in something you want to create it, don't do that because you will not succeed. And also there is a good chance that Blizzard already made it. And yeah, that's the message of all this speech. If you start to think about the game that looks weird and people tell you, oh, you're crazy, tell them, come on, there is too many people playing and there is too many crazy people around them. And they will definitely be same weird as I am. And that's it. Thank you.
Much, Viktor.